Hi guys, here we are. This is the Comic Book Syndicate. This is Mike L. We are at Java Hut. We just talked about the Galactus Trilogy by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Let's talk about Jack Kirby quick. So you got this giant-size edition of this book. What is your impression of Jack Kirby's art?
I mean, I've experienced other Jack Kirby art. This is like probably the earliest Jack Kirby story that I've read. I mean, you see the genesis of his cosmic stories that he becomes really focused on. I mean, like that was what he really loved, was these cosmic stories, and this is like his first chance to do that, which is part of the reason why I wanted the giant-size edition of it,
right?
To see the first chance of him going wild. So it's just, it's not really a good read, but like it's a good thing. Background thing is like his how to draw comics directions. It's a classic for a reason. It's you see in this a lot of the angles and how he positions stuff, and it's just he developed this economy of like they have to get through so much stuff so quickly, and he does it. It's impressive. You follow along. The characters are all distinctive. Nothing gets lost. The art conveys the story brilliantly. It moves it. The characters are all alive. There's action.
It feels to me like it's at every point along the way very good storytelling and very good visual storytelling, really good graphic storytelling. I know you love Kirby.
He's my favorite.
He's your favorite artist, and it'd be really interesting to, like, in general, talk to people who revere him as an artist, because like I don't have that same deep love. Like I respect it, and I especially after talking about it today and looking more than anything at the big giant version, like I can see the cleanness of his storytelling and like so many things he does well. And there's like sort of visual shorthand that he uses, like some of his line work that he's using to show what kind of action is happening is really, really amazing. But none of that pushes me to the level of being like, wow, I love this. Like I respect it. I'm impressed by it, but I don't love it. Even there's artists where I would say that I love them. Even going back to, like, say, Eastman and Lair original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
But that might be emotional. Like
sure.
That's something that I experienced at a point in my life. I love those books, but probably ultimately not.
Well, I just want to say one thing. I do think he is my favorite artist and one of the best artists. But I think one of the keys about this is that it is meant to be reproduced on pulp paper.
Right.
It is meant to tell a story quickly.
Right.
And for the purpose of drawing monthly comics that are in color, that are fast-paced, it's like to take this and put it on modern-day shiny paper with modern coloring wouldn't quite work. I think it's like everything works together, right? The pencils, the inks, the colors, the paper, it's all one perfect package. That's what I think.
He created such a distinctive style and built his own style, out of so many other things.
Right.
That I think you brought up Eastman and Lair, and it's like, you might like it more because of the time when you first encountered
1,000,000%.
But I think a lot of people, I mean, like, this is why all of these characters were created. So many characters were created between these two at this time that, like, just it's hard to separate it out even.
Well, and that's actually one of the things is now, thankfully, comics and superheroes are more in the mainstream with mainstream people, and it's so fascinating to me to be sitting in a theater and watching, like, young teenage girls walk out talking about Thanos and getting excited about Captain America. It's like that was unheard of in the 90s. There was nobody knew about comic books except me in my high school. It was depressing. But anyway, now things are better. But one of the myths I want to talk about is how Stan Lee created the entire Marvel Universe. He created all these characters on his own. They were co-created with Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and others. But I do want to talk about Stan Lee's writing on his own. Do you think Stan Lee is a good writer?
Well, he created the Marvel method.
He's a great character creator, and he created a Marvel method. But is he? like we talked about the art. We could look at this art on its own and just marvel at it. But could you read his scripts on their own?
Well, he doesn't write scripts until the art's done.
Okay,
So
I'm just saying, could you
But still,
recite this dialogue?
So,
like,
okay,
some of the dialogue's great, but
So my struggle with this, and it's actually a larger struggle with comics, is what it means to be a good comic book writer.
okay.
Yeah.
Because like if I gave you a novel, right, like, and that could be a Nabokov novel or a J.K. Rowling novel, and say, is this person a good writer? We can talk about the story structure, we can talk about the plotting, we can talk about the characters, we can talk about the writing itself. But when we talk about like a great comic book writer, are we like, what exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about the individual story structures, like structuring a good arc? Because like I don't think that this is this story isn't per se a good arc, but you might not expect that from something that's being created so quickly and like at such a pace. But it's not a great story arc. It's fine. It's interesting enough. And the writing itself is kind of hammy and over the top and melodramatic and charming in its own way. But it's like, I wouldn't say it's great dialogue or great structure. So what do we mean when we say a great
let's put it this way. It's kind of like, I see it like live music. When you listen to a live jazz improv versus a pre-written recorded song, there's going to be more structure and more refinement to that recorded song. But even like on that level, this is great. Like the raw ideas are incredible. Galactus, Silver Surfer, the conflict, with the Watcher. There's biblical overtones to the level of conflict they're in. However, I think what it comes down to, and we talked about this, is that the actual arc, because the way the story is resolved is not really the characters overcoming the problem themselves. They're kind of getting help from the Watcher and from the Ultimate Nullifier, and it kind of gets a little bit cloudy with how the story climaxes. That's what I think makes this a good story, but it's not like it's a classic. It's not on its own a great story. And if they were to be adapted into the greatest movie ever made, they would certainly have to refine the ending to make it more satisfying. What do you think?
Well, like I want to kind of like jump back because you talk about like it's jazz. It's like how they would write it is like Stan Lee would say, I wanted the story to do this. Jack Kirby would draw it all, and then Stan Lee would go back and write the actual dialogue. And so it's like, at that point, like the script, it's not like Kirby's creating the story from a script. So it's like, which is influencing more? So is it the writer or is it the art? You call it like jazz and they're improvising. It's like, is what's happening.
They're playing off each other.
Yeah, Stan Lee is having to go back and like fit dialogue in. So maybe the dialogue isn't great, but it's feeding off of the Kirby art. And it kind of like has to fit that purpose.
I feel like he's crazy revolutionary.
Yes.
Like the things I think conceptually, the things he was doing are probably 10 times more revolutionary than we necessarily even notice now.
I know. That's right.
But I also, I think on that micro level of what I would expect from great writing in either fiction or comics, probably not. I
agree. Every word. Yeah.
Yeah, to compare it to Alan Moore, where it would just be pages and pages of dialogue and thought out stuff, concept and illustrations that he wants. It's like that's not this. This is a very different product.
Right. It is very different.
So, final word: if you're a comic book lover, a superhero lover, is this essential reading?
I absolutely. This is I think we need to make a list of all the stuff that if you're a comics person, these are here's 20 or 50 texts that you have to read. We've talked about this in the past with Dark Phoenix, with Demon in the Bottle, Iron Man. There's some just parts of comics history that we should read. This seems like one of them.
I agree. What do you think? Essential reading?
Well, I think the only thing that makes it inessential is that it's been retold so many times. I knew so much of what happened from all the retellings and references to it that when I read it, there were no surprises. But
you gotta go back to the source.
But there's definitely
Kirby.
Value. Yeah.
But read 3 more episodes and get Black Panther as well.
Yeah.
So here you go, folks. The foundation of the Marvel Universe is right here in Fantastic Four, 1 to 102 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. This is maybe not the best place to start, but it's probably the pinnacle of the whole run. So if you get a chance, there's 100 different ways you can read the story, and there's a new edition coming out soon. So highly recommended. Pick this up. It's the Galactus Trilogy.